this is April, and being as we can only meet once a week, I have made this little video to show you how to do close reading, because that's the skill you're going to work on this week. And you're going to do the close reading for every reading except Walden. Part of that means that you're going to have to print out the readings. You can print them out at home or come to school on Tuesday morning if you're here Tuesday morning, and I will hand you the packet. Otherwise, you could maybe print one at home, get started on it, and when you come to class on Wednesday, pick it up from me, finish the rest of the week for the work. Finish the rest of the work for the week after you get the packet from me. There will be no Dropbox for the close reading activity because you're going to write directly on all of the sheets. You will bring it to class, not this week, but next week, and I will check it off. It should be something that's in your binder. So, let's go ahead and take a look. The directions for close reading, you will find them in the directions for close reading in the readings section. I will be going over those directions now, but you will need to refer to the close reading page. You will need to print it so that you can have it while you're working through. So what I have chosen for us to take a look at is William Faulkner's Nobel Acceptance Speech. I picked something short because I don't want this video to drag on for 40 minutes. So the first thing you do in close reading is you number the paragraphs. In this case, we have paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. In the readings I've assigned for you, there are many more paragraphs than 4. Also, I've already read this through 2 times. Most of your readings are rather short. So with the shorter ones, I expect that you'll spend more time with them, whereas the longer ones you might have to jam through a little bit more. So, number the paragraphs. And the reason you number your paragraphs is so that, say you're in class, we're having a conversation about what you've read, you can say, oh, okay, go back to paragraph 2. Or perhaps even it just becomes a nice reference point for yourself. So, the next thing you're going to do is you want to chunk your text. I've already read through this, so I know what each individual piece of the text is. When I mean chunking, I mean dividing it up. This has limited space, whereas the readings I have given you have more space, thus they will allow you to take more notes on them. And that's another reason I want you to print them out, is because you have to be able to write on them. That's the key component of chunking, is that you're writing on the paper, and yet another key component of close reading. You must be willing to write on the things that you read. So, step 2, break it into pieces. Well, this paragraph here, paragraph 1, is our intro. I know that because I've already read it. And then we have paragraph 2, which is support. Paragraph 3 is support. And paragraph 4 is our conclusion. Now I know what I'm looking at. Sometimes chunking is not as simple as this. Sometimes it's pretty straightforward. So now that I've chunked everything, step 2, I need to circle or underline. And I've already gone through this, so I know what is important. For example, what's the thesis statement? It's important to know what your thesis statement is so you can look for the supporting examples. In this case, but I would like to do the same with the acclaim 2, by using this moment as a pinnacle from which I might be listened to by the young men and women already dedicated to the same anguish and travail, among whom is already that one who will someday stand here where I am standing. Faulkner's purpose for having written this is that he won the Nobel Prize. And this is his thesis statement. This is his purpose in his speech. It's not just to say, thank you for letting me have this prize. Thank you for recognizing me. He has a call to action to the young men and women already dedicated to the same anguish, otherwise known as writing. So then we go on to paragraph 2. There is only the question, when will I be blown up? Because of this, the young man or woman oops, I started too early, so we're going to start here. There are no longer problems of the spirit. I missed my first line. There is only the question, when will I be blown up? Because of this, the young man or woman writing today has forgotten the problems of the human heart in conflict with itself. So what he's saying is, and in this moment you're asking, blown up? What is he talking about? Well, you come down here and you check the copyright date and you think 1954, what was happening in America? Right? Threat of nuclear problems. Therefore, when he talks about being blown up, he's talking about nuclear bombs. And he's saying that there are no longer problems of the spirit. We're just worried about surviving. So, and then he goes on to say in paragraph 3, he must learn them again. He, of course, referring to the young man or woman, even though he just says he must teach himself that the basis of all things is to be afraid, and teaching himself that, forget it forever, leaving no room in his workshop for anything but the old verities and truths of the heart. What he's talking about is that to be afraid is the lowest of things, and that mankind must forget this fear in order that he might create. And he goes on to say, he writes not of the heart, but of the glands. As a reader, you go, what do you mean, glands? Fear, get my eraser, that looks terrible. Fear is a product of a chemical reaction. It is a product of the glands. He writes not of the heart, but of the glands. And what Faulkner is saying is that he must write of the heart. He goes on to say in paragraph 4, let me find it. The last ding-dong of doom has clanged and faded for the last worthless rock hanging tideless in the last red and dying evening. He's not just talking about sunsets, he's talking about the red menace, he's talking about communism. So, and then he goes on to say, I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He's saying that we won't just keep going, we will continue to go and we will rise above it all. And he goes on to say, because he has a soul, a spirit capable of compassion, sacrifice, and endurance. And finally concluding with, the poet's voice need not merely be the record of man, it can be one of the props, the pillars to help him endure and prevail. And that's what he's saying throughout this whole thing, that you will not be governed by fear. You will pass through fear, this glandular response. You will rise above the scare, this red scare. And that man will not just endure, but his soul, his spirit will rise above. And these will be the pillars to help him endure and prevail. So we are once again arriving at his purpose. So, after having completed step 3, circle and underline, you have to complete step 4 and step 5. Step 4 takes place in the left-hand margin. What you will do in the left-hand margin is you will write a summary of what happens in each section. Not necessarily each paragraph, because sometimes individual paragraphs support each other and are just of the same idea. So that's at your discretion. That's part of the chunking. You have to divide your reading into sections that make sense. And then in the right-hand margin, you're going to use your power verbs. And this will be to describe what the author is doing. For example, in that 4th paragraph, we would use power words like inspire, support, things like that. So I have included a list of power verbs in the directions. Please check it, print that as well so that you have it with you as you are going through. You may also use those right-hand columns to ask questions, preferably questions that you're going to actually come and consult me with, or send me an email, or send me a text message, or address it in class so that you actually get them answered. I also wrote that you can represent the information with a picture. Some people like to draw pictures. It's their way of taking notes. That is fine as well. So this is how you close read. As you move forward with your English work, the readings will become more difficult. You need to be willing to do this, to underline, to pull it apart, so that you can understand complex texts better. Don't feel upset that you don't understand something the first time. That's completely okay. But be willing to go through it more than once so that you can decipher meaning. And come to me and talk to me. And for readings that you cannot write on, use Post-it notes. I can give you those as well. Thank you so much. This is the end of our little video on how to close read.